So, hi there, everyone, and welcome to Happy Life Habits, Inspiration Point, Series 3, Episode 3. We are halfway through, and today's episode is with my good friend, Mary Thomson, who just a few minutes ago, I found out another little nugget of information. So every time I chat with Mary, there's a new nugget of information being shared or a story to be heard. So we're in for a treat today. So real warm welcome to everyone to Inspiration Point. Everyone here is a regular, so we will go straight into the usual question. So using a scale of 0 to 10, but not using the number 7, but fractions and decimals allowed, just take a checkpoint for yourself right now. Where are you on that happiness scale? Where do you sit at this moment in time? And as usual, the reminder is everyone's scale is different. Yours is unique to you. But the key thing here is for us to just use it as a checkpoint, to raise our awareness, to see where we're at. And by raising our awareness and seeing where we're at, it gives us to the next point, which is choice. And if it's a number we're not happy with, we can choose to do something with that. And what we can choose to do is take action. So if the number is less than what you want it to be, the first action I would like you to do is just put a smile on your face. Just put a big smile on your face, and that is the simple process: awareness, choice, and action. So that's what we're working with. Brilliant. So the ground rules, as usual, are the session is being recorded. We ask you to keep your mobiles on silent for the duration. To stay on mute, when we start the video section, if you can switch your videos off. And then when we come to Q&A, you can have your videos on and you can ask questions via the chat or directly. So we do welcome that. And I'm sure there will be some questions that will come through to tease into some of the nuggets that Mary will share. So, yeah, everyone is familiar. Shane Shah, happiness coach, trainer in science happiness and Happy Life Habits, positively impacting people's happiness and well-being levels. And Inspiration Point is one of our projects where it's inspiring, positive, extraordinary people sharing their journey, their challenges and turning points, daily habits and learning through personal development, happiness and spirituality. And as we work through this, we can all relate to aspects of everyone's story and also be inspired by people's journeys and remind ourselves of our own journeys. The whole project is based on 10 core questions: what makes you happy, what are you currently doing that inspires you, and so forth. So each of our episodes, we ask the same 10 questions and we get some really interesting answers, and there's some commonality and there is some uniqueness to that as well, which makes it all the more enjoyable. We're truly grateful to be have the whole series sponsored by Balance Consultancy. So really appreciate that and was really grateful for that. And this whole series is dedicated to women. It's celebrated and was dedicated to International Women's Day, Mother's Day, and to women. And we've had 2 wonderful episodes with Anju Shah, my auntie, and Sasha last week. This week we've got Mary, then next week we've got Hansa, followed by Sonal, and followed by Karuba. Each, with a different angle, a different story to be shared, but all really, inspiring journeys and stories there. So to introduce Mary, Mary was born in South Africa and raised under apartheid. So she's experienced and witnessed the devastating consequences of racism to people living under the white regime in the government. When she was 7 years old, her parents moved to lecture at a theological seminary, which was based in a small white racist farming town called Alice, opposite Fort Hare University, which Nelson Mandela attended. And Mary herself was at schools and friends with one of Nelson Mandela's daughters. So she'll share a bit about that. She trained in a career in nursing, and trained in a career in nursing at the university. And at one point, I met a man and spontaneously decided to travel. And within 6 weeks, had sold all she had, resigned, and left to meet this man in Lisbon, in Portugal. And she'll share the story of sailing on a boat, swimming with dolphins, and seeing dolphins. Sorry, swimming with whales and seeing dolphins in the moonbeams as some of her experiences. She ended up traveling to London and has been here since 1990 and continued her career in nursing and grown in that career to actually become a trainer for nurses and go into some specialisms such as safeguarding and so forth. So many of the nurses that we see on the front line today fighting this pandemic would have been trained by Mary or had the training that Mary has put together and helped share. She is a governor at one of the hospitals and continues, to serve in this caring nursing industry. That career the nursing career did come to a stop when she developed cancer and due to ill health had to retire on those grounds from the NHS. She has invested in herself, in her personal development and in her happiness by continuing to learn and do various different training. She's done the Museum of Happiness facilitator training. She's done laughter yoga training and a few other trainings which she'll share with us, and continually looks to learn more and more and apply what she learns and to share that with others as well. She's come on our Happy Life Habits Gratitude and Journal training course, joined us in September, loved it so much and joined us again in November. That's my story, as opposed to not understanding what I did for the first time and then needed to come again. But she loved it so much, she came again. And remember, she's someone who's in the training industry, so for her to come to something twice on the trot does mean something special to me. That she found it really useful and has shared that with me. She's been part of our book club where we looked at Think Like a Monk, and a core part of the Happy Life Habits community. And just last Saturday, International Day of Happiness, when we were celebrating, herself as well as Hansa and some others were part of the team who shared on that day. So that is a short and fast introduction to Mary. And Mary, really warm welcome. So glad you could join us and say yes to sharing your story. And like I said, when we first had some conversations, just hearing some of the things that have been part of your life and experiences, it made it clear that it was a story worth exploring. So a warm welcome to join us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a privilege.
Brilliant. Good. So the first question, as we always start, Mary, is what makes you happy?
Loads of things, simple things. Just smiling at somebody and them smiling back, doing fun things with my new puppy, my son, just being grateful every day. And your gratitude course definitely reinforced that for me and brought that out more. I love watching birds, just listening to, those birds when they fly in a sort of a V shape. Geese. Geese, not. And they make that sound. It reminds me a bit of South Africa. We used to have birds that did that in the evenings, and seagulls just flying around. I live near the marshes and the wetlands, urban wetlands, and there's loads of birds. All sorts of things. I know I've had a privileged life in so many ways, but I could go on and on. I'll be
That's great. It's a nice selection you've got there. You've got nature, you've got family, and you've got puppy. And uh, what you had shared before was just the small things as well in life. There, so fantastic. So, what are you currently doing that inspires you?
Ah, I don't think I remember what I told you, but I've been involved in creating a fibromyalgia support group, and although I've just taken a few weeks out actually because my health is up and down, we've been sort of creating a group where people share and meet and connect. I've been offering mindfulness sessions and workshops and laughter yoga and coffee and chats, and since lockdown began in March last year. So that's kind of how it came into fruition. I'm also spending time sort of stepping back and just looking at everything and thinking, what exactly is it that's best for me to do from here now?
Yeah, with that the fibromyalgia, what is that? Can you explain a bit more about what that is?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one because sometimes doctors will say, like recently, last week, my GP said, that's a diagnosis we give when we don't know what you've got.
Okay.
But actually it's it's pain, fatigue, sort of brain fog that comes over you, a bewildering array of symptoms that come together. And there's so many people, Lady Gaga's been diagnosed with it. I don't think it's entirely made up, but I don't know that they're sure. I have some theories about sort of the things that could contribute towards it, but yeah.
So it's one which you've experienced from suffering from. And did you start the support group, or did you join a support group? What's the story there?
Well, originally somebody from the council very uniquely decided to set up a group, and we were running for a while, and then it kind of all blew up with a few people sort of at each other for, I think, religious and racist reasons. It was quite an experience, to be honest. And two of us decided that we would sort of withdraw and invite people to rejoin in. So we set up this new group. But that whole learning for me was really a good experience, although it was horrid, because of just remembering that, we're frail when people are worried about things, and people are worrying a lot at this time, about all sorts of things. So how to, work with people in a peaceful way and loving way so that they can overcome those kinds of barriers has been a very good lesson for me, I suppose, again.
Okay. And it's in that support group where you share the mindfulness and the laughter yoga and those things.
Various sessions. Living well with fibromyalgia is something I'm quite passionate about, because it doesn't matter what you've been diagnosed with, it's how you sort of approach it and deal with it that counts. And I think most of the things that have gone wrong with my health have actually been gifts to me, because they've brought me to a new place in my life, new learning, and so on.
Yeah, I think what you just said in those last couple of sentences is very important, profound. It doesn't matter what's happened or what the situation is, it's how we respond to it. And we can see it as a niggle or a complaint, or we can see it as a blessing and learn from it and move forward and help others through it. And that's the approach you've taken, and that's a really good attitude and approach to take. So thank you for that. Good. The other thing, I think, just on the currently what you're doing, if I remember correctly, you're in the midst of writing 5 books.
Sounds a bit ridiculous, but yeah, I am. I started 3 some years ago, and then when I became very ill, they kind of just came to a halt. And then gradually I started, writing again. And then over the course of last year, I got some ideas, so I somehow started another 2. But it's going slowly because I've managed to find abundance of things to do. I have to kind of choose. So, but it's actually becoming more and more clear to me that actually what I need is some time of reading and stepping back and writing.
Yeah.
Because I've got a lot of thoughts, ideas, enthusiasm, things I know, but they're not going to stay like this forever, and things move on. So I just feel like now's the time to express myself.
That sounds good. And one thing possibly to do also is just brain dump onto either a mind map or electronic wise some of the thoughts and ideas. So at least you've got them to come back to. And then refine what you're working with.
I learned that from you, actually. You've done some great mind maps that just remind, I actually have done that since I've seen yours. And that's really helping me to process what it is I want to put in and say.
That's great. Thank you. So I think the big question, what's been your journey, some of the challenges and major turning points? So I think this is a good opportunity to share about your upbringing in South Africa and some of those experiences.
Yeah, like you say, I always come out with something different. So if you are not expecting what I'm going to say, I don't know what I'm going to say. Sorry, I interrupted you just now, by the way. My upbringing was very unusual. I grew up white, but in a family that was opposed to apartheid. And so in Johannesburg, my parents were very involved in activities that were, some of them a bit underground, kind of not subversive, but to protect people. And my dad spent some time in prison because of his beliefs. And he used to bring people off the streets and put them up in the garage and whatever. And then the police would arrive and they'd arrest everybody because they were black and not meant to be staying there. And then my dad would go to the court and they'd say, are these people staying at your place with your permission or without, permission? Because if it's without, they're in trouble. If it's with permission, you're in trouble.
A rock in a hard place, isn't it?
And my dad would say, no, it was me. So they'd be allowed out. And then one day the judge actually said to him, it had happened so many times, between you and me, you're doing a good job. But I saw some terrible things and some really unfortunate things. I mean, the area we stayed in Johannesburg was very rough because it was on, next to the station that went to Soweto, which was the biggest of the townships. And people used to hang out and rob people of their Friday night pay, and all sorts of things used to go down. But then we moved, as my father, as you said, my father went to lecture at FedSem, the Federal Theological Seminary. And that was quite a political environment as well. There were lots of children in the community. It was we all lived together as a community, but the government took our land, so we ended up moving. So we moved to the Transkei, and then we moved to Pietermaritzburg eventually, but we were living in caravans and tents and all sorts of things for a while. So yeah, all kinds of experiences in that. And then wait, what else can I tell you about my, it was
what about so while you were in the town and city of Alice, which, like you said, was very much white, was it, how did we phrase it?
White racist.
That's it. Yeah. So
I think that might be a bit unfair to some people. But there were lots of people who were very against our community because we were all races and from all over the world. But we were required by law to go to school, which was white only. And so my father did let us go to school, but we weren't allowed to sing the national anthem. So we had to stand while everybody stood and sang to the flag and whatever. But I remember telling you this story. Actually, one day we had a prize giving, and I think I told you this. My father stood up to challenge the speaker because he was saying things like, the reason you must have good education is we must keep the blacks under our thumbs. My dad said, excuse me, can I just challenge you on that? And I thought the next day was going to be awful at school, but everybody was going, your dad's so brave, hey? And things that made me realize not everybody was racist, but they used to spit at me. They used to lock me up in the toilet. They did all sorts of horrible things to me. And they poisoned the meat and put it down for dogs in our actual community. So, there were things that happened.
And the university was the one which Nelson Mandela went to.
Fort Hare, yes. He I think that's where he studied law, and there were a lot of connections between our students and the students studying at Fort Hare University, and a lot of people that trained at FEDSAM became very involved in the movement later. Like Desmond Tutu was one of the lecturers there, and so it was like a sort of a cultivation, a place where people were sort of prepared to go out and fight apartheid in loving and kind ways, often, which is the hardest way to, but
Yes. And so, so Desmond Tutu was lecturing at the same place where your dad was lecturing, so they families knew.
I remember him as a child. He's a very funny chap. He's got a great sense of humor, and we kids loved him. There were amazing people that I grew up to know, and that I met because they'd visit from overseas, and all sorts of people. Truly.
And what about if I remember, you're at school with Nelson Mandela's one of his daughters.
No, I was
correct?
at university. Yeah. We studied some of the same subjects together, and that was Zinzi, who's just recently passed away, unfortunately. Well, it's a little while ago now, but she had a tough time growing, all through her life, but even there she was moving around a lot to sort of protect where she was, and I felt so heartsore for her, really. And I told you that she gave me this belt that I've sort of carried around in this special bag, like treasuring it. I've never really worn it or anything, which is ridiculous, but I met her. She came and wrote did a book signing for her grandchildren's book they'd written about their granddad. And yeah, I saw the family then, but now she passed away.
Yeah. So that, now it sounds like real tough and challenging times, and also, for you guys as a family to be going against what society, as it were, was doing, to be, pushing against that of what, the majority of people were, I guess, considering to be what was acceptable, must have been really, quite difficult.
I mean, there were little moments, like if I had friends from school for a birthday party, and then I'd have my friends from home at the party, and people would be like, "You have black friends?" or "You let black people stay in your house?" or things like that. They weren't that difficult to deal with. It was the whole concept of it and how to overcome it was there. And my dad didn't miss a beat. If he could say to people, this is wrong, he would have us standing at the beach telling people, don't go on a whites only beach. That's really bad. And they'd be like, "But you're white." And he'd say, "Yes, exactly. But, God's made us all equal and this is wrong."
Yeah.
So, yeah, we weren't allowed really to go to whites only places, which were a lot of places, nice places, restaurants, swimming pools, things like that. We did go to one or two things that were, white only school and stuff.
Yeah. Then tell us about the nursing and then the trip to Lisbon.
Oh yeah, I studied social work at university, and then I felt like we were heading into civil war. So in South Africa, so I thought, no, I need skills that will be useful. So I might as well become a nurse rather. I wasn't feeling social work because they were dishing out loads of resources to white people, and then people that really needed help weren't getting what they deserved. So that I couldn't cope with that, and decided, okay, at least if I'm a nurse, I can serve people, with love equally.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And then I met this chap, and within 6 weeks, like I say, I was on a aeroplane to Lisbon. I sold everything I had. I used to bring stuff to work, and people would be buying it. And everything, cupboards, beds, my piano, the lot. And I just came over and we sailed around the Mediterranean and did yacht charters for some very wealthy people.
So all you had was what you could carry onto that boat?
Yeah, just a little bag, a backpack. Wow. And £900, that's all I had. Because, in exchange from rands, that was astronomical at the time, for me anyway. Nursing salaries aren't very high. So, I managed to travel on that $900 for, maybe 6 months, which is not bad, given that I got all around Europe and then to America and back. But, in various different situations, people help.
Tell us some of the experiences you had on that.
Both. I never thought that I would be interested in sitting on a tiny little boat in the middle of nowhere, but we had the most incredible conversations, and we'd be talking about whether the Pope was infallible or not and whatever. And one day we turned around, and there in the distance was this whale spouting water. I mean, it was just, I never dreamt that would happen. I know you can see whales off the coast of South Africa and swim with sharks and all sorts of things. But Yeah, and then we jumped into the sea and swam. So the whales over there and we're swimming, and we had measured the depth of the sea at where we were, and it was 30 kilometers deep, which is quite deep.
Mm,
Yeah, and you sort of swimming around thinking, I'm in 30 kilometers worth of water.
mm.
I got a paddle. Um, and then, yeah, so we were taking turns in watches, and one watch happened to be on my birthday night, and I was turning 24. I'll never forget this. And we were sailing on the moonbeam, which was just incredible, and the water was phosphorus light and
So, sorry, what's a moonbeam?
a moonbeam. So you had the moon just shining down onto the water. And
A
so
full moon.
well, almost, yes,
Yeah.
it was. And it just sort of, we were sailing on that course. So
Mm.
it was just, and then these dolphins arrived and they were, I mean, it was like something out of a movie, all jumping and phosphorus, which is like this glow that they just leave in the spray. And it was fabulous. I remember sitting there thinking, wow, oh, yeah, how lucky am I? So yeah, we did all sorts of things. It was really, yeah, good fun.
Excellent. And then you came to London.
Yeah, I came to London and I was here. I met up with a friend who was about to go and do a nursing course or further her nursing. And I was thinking of going back to finish my social work degree because I left after the second year and went into nursing. And then as we were talking, we decided that we each wanted to do what the other wanted to do. And we somehow ended up swapping. She, not literally, but I ended up applying, to nurse here. And she went back and did her sociology degree.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's in Washington now, but we sort of, our paths keep crossing. And yeah, she's a very special friend to me. And so, yeah, thanks to her, I'm actually here. I stayed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good. And then with that nursing, um, can you tell us a little bit about how you became into the role of training other nurses and the kind of things you did in that space?
Yeah, I've worked and trained in various different places. Like I was telling you, I worked at Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. I trained there. One of my trainings. I've done various children's nursing, adults. I worked in mental health for a while with children and young people, but at a very tier 4 level, so at Great Ormond Street. And various different things. Then I had an accident actually, and I was told I couldn't go back onto the wards, and they were trying to retire me, but I was in my 30s. So I and my GP said, maybe not a great idea, but maybe I shouldn't go back to that job. And yeah, that kind of broke my heart. I had quite a lot of time off, and it took me about 7 years to train again. So I did trained as a health visitor, and then I started doing that slowly and building up until about 7 years after that accident, I was back at work full time.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and in that time, I have been raising a son as well. Um, so then he's not my birth child, but I've raised him, and yeah, I'm trying to think. I've done so many different things. I specialized as a community practice teacher. Then I did a master's in education, and I've trained nurses and other staff, doctors, psychologists, you name it, in a variety of different ways and courses. So, yeah, and then I specialized in safeguarding, and that's the job I had to sadly give up. Um, it broke my heart actually. For quite a while, I was really struggling with that one. but I just couldn't do it. It involved a lot of driving, and it was a very stressful job. And having had cancer, the last thing I needed was to be doing something high stress.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my nursing career. But I'm still kind of, as you said, a governor. So I've got
Mm.
and I've been helping create create materials for wobble rooms in the hospital, and sessions for people, more probably going forward,
Mm.
on how to sort of cope with just what it's like on the wards right now, and in that kind of work, sort of
Mm.
find ways to be well and resilient and
Yeah,
cope.
that's excellent. Thank you. So, what are some of your daily habits and routines that support you, that nourish you?
I've sort of over time sort of it's changed a little bit, but roughly the same sorts of things. I love to wake up and meditate in
Mm.
silence for a bit, read. So I have a set of habits in the morning of don't know if you've ever heard of savers. Have I mentioned this? Oh, I have. Yeah. I've adapted it stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And yeah, I did your journaling course, or gratitude journaling course, and I actually am in the last week of my journal. I've got a new one actually because I joined your second group, your course. So I've got them all ready here. To move on to the next one. So all that kind of sets me up for the day, and then I have habits through the day as well. Like I practice sort of informal mindfulness type activities just for myself,
Mm.
and I've also been playing around a lot with savoring.
Mm.
Just really learning to savor things, just even little moments, hearing birds outside, a cup of nice tea, a walk, but just noticing things a lot.
Mm.
A lot of courses I've been doing actually, and delivering some as well. So
Excellent. Yeah, so fully focused on making sure you got your self-care happening to keep you topped up and able to take on whatever challenges unfold in the day. So, yeah.
it has taken me a lot to get to that, if I'm honest.
Mm.
Nurses aren't necessarily particularly good at looking after themselves.
Mm.
We did do a small little bits like learning to massage our hands in college. I can remember training as a nurse a long time ago,
Mm.
but that's not necessarily enough to protect you when you involved in something that's so, that involves so much giving.
Yeah.
You need to nourish yourself, and I wasn't doing that enough. So I've had to learn. And that's why I've done a lot of the courses I have and met, people like you that inspire me and make me want to, find new, different ways and habits
Mm.
particularly. And that's why I love the name of your
Yeah.
uh,
Business
bus-
brand approach. Yeah.
yeah, I
Like
think it's
habits.
brilliant actually. And I am focusing on losing some habits, like clenching my jaw. It's something I've had all my life. I've ground my teeth and all sorts of things. It's
Mm.
caused me some problems, but also developing some.
Yeah. That's fantastic. What is one of your favorite quotes?
Now, I gave you one of yours, and I'd love you to please show it because we managed to get it on a. There you go.
Yeah, so on the Happy Life Habits Facebook group, I think last year sometime we were either asking what's one of your favorite quotes or sharing something, and I happened to share this, and I'll share this somewhere, and Mary said, that's a fantastic quote, and I said, oh yeah. So we captured it, and it's saying time is our most precious resource. We should not waste it. If it fits with my mission, serves, feels right, positively impacts, makes me smile, adds to the greater good, enthuses and inspires me, and I have the opportunity to be with wonderful, like-minded people, why wait? And it was that, just that aspect of if all of those things, or many of those things are matching up, don't wait around, because time is our most precious resource, and just move with it and get on with it. So that was the one that we
Yeah,
had. So
yeah, I love
thank
that.
you. Okay, what is an achievement that you are proud of?
Ooh, there's a number of things in my life. I mean, I can't honestly remember what I said to you when we I know I've got some notes here of what I told you, but okay. Or I'm just reminding myself, because I've been really, really fortunate in my life. I've managed to, travel, meet people all over the show. One of the things I'm proudest of is that I'm a very loving person, that I have a kindness in me that wants to serve people, and that I've been raised by parents who brought out that idea that service is a good thing, because in that I've met incredible people who've taught me and shown me what real service is. And it's just been I've been lucky. I have had an interesting varied sort of life that I call my scenic route. Um, so yeah, I think I'm most proud of being able to sit at a table of professionals talking about something and being able to challenge them if I felt like we were making a decision that wasn't right, but it was an easy one to make, if you know what I mean. Things
Yeah,
like that. So being not afraid to speak out, just being brave. And I had that a lot as a child as well, stood up for things.
yeah, and I think that's the influence of your dad as well, from what you shared. Yeah,
Yeah, true.
role model there. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
excellent. What's one of your favorite books and why?
Oh, I love books. I've got loads and loads and loads of books that I'm reading, rereading. But my father got lung cancer, and just before he died, he said to me, "Read The Gift of Pain" by Paul Yancey and Dr. Paul Brand. And so I felt I had to be honest. Um, so I got a copy. Actually, I had his copy, and he likes to underline and do things in books. And I found his notes a bit off-putting, so I had to buy another copy. I love his notes, but
Yeah.
and it's an incredible book. Paul Brand was a doctor, a neurologist, and he studied the nervous system and what was causing people with leprosy to get so many cuts and bruises and things that they weren't feeling. They were being chewed by mice and not even realizing it. And he was the chap that brought out all the understanding about diabetic neuropathy. And this was from his work in India as a neurologist, where he was studying and trying to help people with leprosy. And this book describes that sort of journey, but it makes the body this most incredible miracle. You realize, the way it describes the body, the way he describes the body makes, it's just phenomenal, our bodies. They're miracles, and that we can walk is a miracle.
Mm.
Never mind fly or walk on water. And we forget that. Often we're just so fixated on what we're trying to do that we forget that we're in these incredible bodies that are fabulous gifts. So that's a great book. There's others, loads I could come up with, but I'll leave it at that for today.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. What did you learn from your parents? We've had some stuff come through as have been sharing, but yeah, it's a question in its own right. What did you learn from your parents? If you'd like to highlight some of the.
I think they were the most compassionate, kind, loving people I've ever met. They were both very funny and fun. But, apartheid really wore them down, to be honest. But, I remember coming home one night and the two of them were on the lawn in the dark with the moon shining down. They had a record player and they were dancing away. Things like that. They loved life. They loved taking us out into nature. And, I have many, many picnics next to waterfalls in the pouring rain. And we just, they took us all over South Africa. I met people in all walks of life from all races. And I really got a feel of the pulse of the country. And, I just was thinking, how are we going to overcome apartheid? I remember when I was at university one day, I put a sign on my door saying, "Don't wake me up unless the sun turns to ice cream or Nelson Mandela is released from prison." Because it was like, neither of these is ever going to happen. And when I came downstairs, everyone was like joking about it. But it stands out for me because it taught me a lesson that never say never.
Yes.
We thought that would never happen.
Yeah. A couple of the other things you shared, which I'm going to read out because I think they're so well captured and written. It says, you learn to believe in a future without hatred and violence, of love and kindness. You learned that to love and to serve was the purpose of life. You learned that one could be creative with this. Learn to love nature, to be mindful, to really see people, to show kindness and love, to smile and laugh, to pray, sing, and be joyful, and also learned endurance, perseverance, and to stand up for what's right. So those were what you had shared with me, which I think really captures it quite nicely.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. I mean, when you think about your life and what you've learned and all the people you've met and, the things you've been through, it's quite, I think one of the things that I learned most that I love from my parents was a sense of awe and wonder at small things and big things. They also listened. They gave time to us. They, prayed with us daily, morning and night. And they were just incredibly caring, loving. My mum's still around and she's a real character.
Fantastic. It reminds me of that quote, "The family that prays together stays together."
Yeah, we've been through our trials, but my family is huge actually because we've adopted all kinds of people into it, and even tonight I was sending a message to someone and saying, if you need somewhere to stay, this is always open to you. And yeah, so it's just I feel grateful. I'm here.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. The last kind of core question is, who or what are your inspirers? And I mean, we've touched upon this, but just gives another opportunity to share a bit more on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the kinds of people that have inspired me, we've talked about Nelson Mandela being one of them, my parents. Sometimes people I've just met in passing, but nature particularly inspires me. It's fabulous, it's wild, it's and yet has its times for everything. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. You inspire me, Shailene. And I've in the last few years I've made an effort to try and connect with people who just uplift, and yet listen and are kind. I don't want to be surrounding myself by go-getters, and I'm not out to achieve something amazing. I'm still just wanting to serve people and be loving and kind in doing that. It sounds a bit corny maybe, but it's true.
There's many of us in that realm, and most people on this call are in that realm, and that's part of what the Happy Life Habits community is about. Focusing on the positive, focusing on the good, focusing on what's right, and keeping ourselves surrounded by the people who can uplift us in a world where there is so much negativity and negative bias. So we've got to support each other and lift each other up, and one by one, slowly, then things will change. So yeah.
Can I just add that Norman Cousins and Madan Kataria, with their laughter research and stuff, they really inspire me. The fact that you can laugh for 10 minutes and change your health, 10 minutes every day, belly laugh, that that kind of thing inspires me too. Just sorry, I keep getting these memories of yes, there's that.
Yes. Good. No, that's good. And that you just kind of hit the question that we often ask: is there anything else you'd like to add that we haven't asked? You preempted it, and
I already jumped in.
Yes. No, that's great. No, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And like I said, each time we talk this, we catch up. There's some new nugget that comes through, and even with this one, a few more things have come through which wasn't aware of. But I really appreciate that, and the various experiences you had are, and that we all have, is what shapes us. And often parents and our environment is our role models, and the thing we just touched upon just recently, the community we stay part of, that can help us stay grounded and focused on the right things, is all important stuff there. But it's fascinating to hear about your time in South Africa, as well as all the experiences. All the experiences you've shared. I know you've had more, but all the experiences you have shared with us, and I'm really glad you're part of our Happy Life Habits community. So
I am too. Thank you.
Welcome.
Really glad.
So with that, we come to the point where if anyone has got any questions, we can take a few questions, as well as I will just share the poll so that we can get that done. It'll just take a couple of minutes, and in the poll, we asked at the beginning what your happiness level was at the start of the event. And similarly, if you just check in now what your happiness level is on that 0 to 10 scale, and just share whether it's higher, the same, or less, would you recommend Happy Life Habits Point podcast? And if you know of anyone who might be good to take part, great to know that. And if you do know anyone who would like to take part, or if you'd like to take part yourself, please direct them to the Inspiration Point page on the website and ask them to fill out the form, and we can start building up ready for series 4 later in the year. Or do drop me a note with any information you have, and I can look into contacting those people. So that would be fantastic for that. If there is on there. I'll just give you a couple more seconds, and then we'll stop the poll. And let's just see on here. Okay, so I will stop the poll now. If anyone does have any questions, now is a good opportunity to ask on that. And okay, we've covered that. Yeah, a big thank you to Balance Consultancy again. I'm really grateful for sponsoring the series. Next week, we will have Hunter, who's on the call with us at the moment and joined us on Saturday as well. Expert in stress management and a stress expert. And she set up a wellbeing center in Birmingham called the Om Wellbeing Center, and was inspired by Deepak Chopra. So she will share her story and journey next week. And yeah, the gratitude course is taking bookings for the next course, which is in June, and a final course most likely in the year, which will be in November. So at the moment, 2 likely months when we'll be doing the course. So if you'd like to take part in that, those registrations are open, and it's a course worth giving a go on. And yeah, you can join the community in any of these areas. So let's just see if we've got a couple of questions. Okay, so we have some comments and stuff, but we have a question from Tracy. So she says, Mary, a truly fascinating journey with incredible experiences. It has been a pleasure to listen to you on this evening. Your outlook on life is very inspirational. The world needs people like you and your family. Are your books related to your journey? And also, what are you looking forward to achieving that you haven't done so yet?
Yeah, I'm a mindfulness teacher as well. So one of my books is about mindfulness. One is about safeguarding. And I have one about supervision, and one is about my journey. So it's, a range of things, Tracy. Thanks for your comment. There are actually loads of things I'm looking forward to and hoping I can do. I do, like a lot of people, probably miss the opportunity to travel at the moment. It's like, and I realize in the midst of that how fortunate I am, because there are people who have no food right now. And so it's like, it's all relative, isn't it? Yeah, I'm working on my health. I think that's the other thing, is just improving my health again, recovering from a variety of things that came to change my life a bit.
Brilliant. And when you've got those books ready, we can launch them and share them in Happy Life Habits. And I look forward to a signed copy of the Journey one.
Absolutely.
Or we all do.
I have to blank out some names in it, but
Yes. Another question from Rukmal is: you've been back? Have you been back to South Africa, and what sort of changes have you found?
Yeah, I haven't been back in 14 years now. that was since my father died, if I'm honest, because I've been ill over that period. So I've been quite unwell for a time now. But at that time, there were quite a few changes that I noticed, but not enough, if that makes sense. And even now, things are very difficult there right now. You know, we don't see this in the news here every day, but I hear it from my brother who's still there. And, you know, people are struggling, they're starving actually, because some people haven't been able to access food. There's been problems with delivering food to people. It's been dire. So, and, you know, but, you know, hey, I think the world has been through quite a lot right now, and you know, we're all doing the best we can in the circumstances we find ourselves, I suppose. Well, that's what I'm trying to encourage people to do.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask the last question, and I'm going to be a bit cheeky and work it on the basis of, so you know, joined the gratitude and journal habit immersion training course in September. What made you, join that? How did you find it? And then what made you sign up again for November?
That's an interesting question. A friend of mine sent me the link to your course, and I remember I immediately messaged you and said I wanted to join, and I did, and I wasn't at all sorry. I think I've got my laptop balancing on top of it. I love the, journal that we use and the principles in it, the 5 different psychological principles, and just the sessions that you've run. They were gentle, uplifting, and really encouraging, and they just made me feel, encouraged to really just do this simple task. It's not a massive ask, and yet it's become, you talked about going and looking back and being able to look at the journey, and I've been doing that recently, and I've been amazed at what I recorded and how I'd forgotten about lots and lots of things, people I met, and because I just write little notes all around the edges and quotes and things. So yeah, it's I wanted to do it again because I felt like, I mean, this might be part of the neurological illness I had, where my memory is not ideal, and so I wanted to reinforce what I'd learned, but I actually enjoyed it so much too that I wanted to do it again. And if I hadn't been sort of a bit overwhelmed with all the abundance of things that seem to have popped up with the pandemic, I would have just kept doing it over and over. But I had to step back and rest a bit. I was trying to do too much.
Yeah. Well, if you want to join the June one or the November one, just let me know, and you can join as my guest.
I do.
On that. So that would be lovely. And what you mentioned about looking back on your journal, it's capturing aspects of our life, but also that aspect of savor. So when you've captured something in there that's positive, and you can look back on it and enjoy that moment again and release those happy chemicals again. So that is one aspect of savor as well. So
absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
That's what I've been doing. So yeah, thank you.
Well, welcome. Okay, so that brings us to the end of episode 3. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining us. Do join us again next week, where we have Hansa sharing her journey. Those of you who are on the VIP pass, just make sure you do get yourself registered using the promo code and get all the remaining episodes signed up and sorted so you don't forget. And yeah, thank you, Mary, so much for sharing your journey. Thank you all again for joining, and we will see you at the latest next week.
Thank
Take
you.
care all. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.